Imagine becoming king after Solomon, the richest and wisest king Israel had ever known. The palace is yours, the crown is yours, the kingdom is yours. But then the people come to you with one simple request. Please lighten our burden. You have one chance to win their hearts, one chance to keep the kingdom united, one chance to lead with wisdom. But instead of listening to the elders, Rehoboam listened to voices that fed his pride. And with just a few harsh words, he lost 10 tribes, divided Israel forever, and watched the glory of his father's kingdom begin to fade. This is the tragic story of Rehoboam, the king who inherited greatness, but lost it because he refused to listen.
After many years of glory, wisdom, and wealth, King Solomon grew old and died. The golden kingdom he had built did not disappear overnight. The temple still stood in Jerusalem. The palace still shone with beauty. The people still remembered the days when kings and queens came from faraway lands just to hear Solomon speak. But beneath all the gold, something was breaking. The people of Israel were tired. For years they had worked under heavy taxes and hard labor. Solomon had built magnificent buildings, but the cost had fallen heavily on ordinary families. Fathers had worked long hours, sons had been taken for labor, farmers had given more and more of what they harvested. So when Solomon died, the people looked to his son, Rehoboam, with hope. They thought, maybe the new king will understand us. Maybe he will listen. Maybe he will make life easier. Rehoboam was young compared to the elders of Israel, and now the throne was his. He was the son of the wisest king who ever lived. He had grown up around wealth, power, servants, royal teachers, and palace comfort. But there was one thing he had not yet learned. A crown can be inherited, but wisdom cannot. Rehoboam traveled to Shechem, where all Israel gathered to make him king. The people came not as enemies, but as citizens asking for mercy. Among them was Jeroboam, a strong and capable leader who had once served under Solomon. He had returned from Egypt after hearing that Solomon was dead. Jeroboam and the people stood before Rehoboam and said,
"Your father made our burden heavy. Now lighten the harsh labor and the heavy yoke he put on us, and we will serve you."
It was a simple request. They were not asking Rehoboam to give up his throne. They were not asking him to become poor. They were not asking him to destroy what Solomon had built. They were asking him to lead with compassion. In today's world, it was like employees going to a new manager and saying, "We are burned out. Please treat us fairly." It was like a community asking a leader, "Do not use power to crush us. Use it to help us." Rehoboam looked at them and said,
"Come back to me in 3 days."
At first, this seemed wise. He did not answer quickly. He took time to seek advice. But the danger was not whether Rehoboam would get advice. The danger was whose advice he would choose to follow. Rehoboam first went to the older men who had served his father Solomon. These elders had seen kingdoms rise. They had watched Solomon make decisions. They understood people. They understood leadership. They understood that a king who loses the hearts of the people can also lose the kingdom. They told Rehoboam,
"If you will be a servant to these people today, serve them, answer them kindly, and speak good words to them, they will be your servants forever."
Their advice was powerful. They were telling him, "Humble yourself now, and the people will honor you later." They were not saying, "Act weak." They were saying, "True strength knows how to listen." A leader does not become small by serving others. A leader becomes great by carrying people, not crushing them. But Rehoboam did not like that advice. Maybe it sounded too soft to him. Maybe he thought kindness would make people disrespect him. Maybe he wanted to prove he was stronger than Solomon. Maybe he thought, "I am king now. I do not need to beg people to follow me." So he walked away from the elders. Then he went to his friends. Rehoboam asked the young men he had grown up with.
What should I say to these people?
These were his peers. They knew palace life. They knew privilege. They knew comfort. But they did not know the pain of the workers standing outside the palace gates. They told him to answer harshly. They said,
Tell the people, my little finger is thicker than my father's waist. My father made your burden heavy, but I will make it heavier. My father punished you with whips, but I will punish you with scorpions.
In other words, they told him, show them who is boss. Do not look weak. Be harder than your father. Make them fear you. This is where Rehoboam's fall began, not when the kingdom split, not when the people rebelled. His fall began the moment he chose advice that fed his ego instead of advice that could save his people. And this is still relatable today. Sometimes people destroy relationships because they listen to friends who say, don't apologize. Sometimes leaders destroy teams because they listen to people who say, they need to fear you. Sometimes parents lose their children's trust because they think authority means never admitting wrong. Sometimes young people ruin their future because they ignore wise guidance and follow voices that make pride sound powerful. Rehoboam had two choices, wisdom or pride. He chose pride. 3 days later, Jeroboam and all the people returned. Everyone waited. This was Rehoboam's moment. With one humble answer, he could have healed years of pain. With one wise decision, he could have kept the kingdom united. With one gentle word, he could have won the hearts of Israel. But Rehoboam answered harshly. He said,
My father made your yoke heavy, but I will add to it. My father punished you with whips, but I will punish you with scorpions.
The people stood in shock. They had asked for mercy. He gave them threats. They had asked for relief. He promised more pain. They had asked for a leader. He acted like a tyrant. In that moment, the people realized Rehoboam did not understand them. He did not care about their struggles. He did not see their tears. He only saw his throne. So the people cried out,
What share do we have in David? To your tents, Israel.
And just like that, the kingdom split. 10 tribes rejected Rehoboam and made Jeroboam their king. Only Judah and Benjamin remained with Rehoboam. The United Kingdom of Israel, built through the victories of David and the wisdom of Solomon, was torn apart by the arrogance of one man. Rehoboam had wanted to look strong, but his pride made him lose most of his kingdom. Rehoboam returned to Jerusalem with a broken kingdom. He still had a throne, he still had a palace, he still had a crown, but he had lost the hearts of the people. That is one of the saddest kinds of failure. A person can still have a title but lose respect. Rehoboam teaches us that being in charge is not the same as being a good leader. He wanted control, but he lost connection. He wanted fear, but he lost loyalty. He wanted to prove his power, but he exposed his weakness. After the tribes rebelled, Rehoboam gathered an army. He wanted to fight and force the people back under his rule. He prepared for war against his own brothers. But God sent a prophet named Shemaiah with a message. Do not go up to fight against your brothers. Go home, every one of you, for this thing is from me. This was a powerful moment. God stopped Rehoboam from making a bad situation even worse. Sometimes when we lose something because of our own bad decisions, our first reaction is to fight, blame, defend ourselves, or force things back to the way they were. But God was teaching Rehoboam, you cannot fix pride with more pride. Rehoboam listened this time. He did not attack the northern tribes. That was one good decision in a story filled with painful mistakes. But the damage had already been done. The kingdom remained divided. For a time, Rehoboam strengthened Judah. He built fortified cities and tried to protect what remained of his kingdom. But as his power became secure, his heart drifted further from God. The Bible tells us that when Rehoboam was established and strong, he and all Israel with him forsook the law of the Lord. That is a serious warning. Sometimes people pray when they are desperate, but forget God when life becomes comfortable. They seek God when they need help, but ignore him when they feel strong. Rehoboam's problem was not only political, it was spiritual. He did not fully set his heart to seek the Lord. And when a leader's heart drifts from God, the people often suffer. In the 5th year of Rehoboam's reign, Shishak, king of Egypt, came against Jerusalem. This was not a small threat. Egypt was powerful. Their army came with chariots, horsemen, and many soldiers. The glory Solomon had built now faced humiliation. The prophet Shemaiah came again and told Rehoboam and the leaders of Judah, "You have forsaken me, therefore I have forsaken you into the hand of Shishak." This time Rehoboam and the leaders humbled themselves. They said, "The Lord is righteous." Because they humbled themselves, God showed mercy. He did not allow Jerusalem to be completely destroyed. But there were still consequences. Shishak entered Jerusalem and took away the treasures of the house of the Lord and the treasures of the king's house. He even took the gold shields Solomon had made. Those shields were symbols of royal glory. Now they were gone, so Rehoboam made bronze shields to replace them. That image says everything. Gold had become bronze. Glory had become imitation. The kingdom that once amazed the world was now trying to cover its loss with a cheaper replacement. That is what pride does. It promises greatness, but leaves emptiness. It promises power, but brings shame. It promises control, but steals peace. Rehoboam continued to reign in Jerusalem. He had children, a palace, armies, and authority. But his story is remembered not mainly for what he built, but for what he lost. He inherited a united kingdom and left behind a divided one. He inherited the legacy of David and Solomon, but he did not carry their wisdom. He had access to good counsel, but he rejected it. He had a chance to heal the people, but he wounded them more. He had a moment to humble himself, but he chose pride. And the Bible gives us the heart of his failure. He did evil because he did not prepare his heart to seek the Lord. That means Rehoboam's greatest failure was not just that he listened to the wrong friends. It was that his heart was not surrendered to God. Rehoboam's story is not just about an ancient king. It is about every person who has ever stood at a crossroads between pride and humility. It is about the young person who ignores wise advice because friends are louder. It is about the leader who thinks kindness is weakness. It is about the person who inherits blessings but lacks character. It is about anyone who wants power without service, position without humility, and success without God. Rehoboam teaches us this: the people who truly love you may not always tell you what your pride wants to hear. The elders told him the truth. His friends told him what sounded powerful. The truth could have saved his kingdom. The flattery destroyed it. So before we make big decisions, we must ask, am I listening to wisdom or am I listening to pride? Am I trying to serve or am I trying to control? Am I protecting my ego or am I protecting what God has trusted me with? Because sometimes one decision can change everything. Rehoboam rose because he was Solomon's son, but he fell because he refused to become a servant-hearted leader. And in the end, his story reminds us, a crown on the head means nothing if pride rules the heart.